Okay guys, welcome back. I'm going to revisit polynomial long division with a bunch more examples. So I'd like to start off with the division algorithm that we remember from grade school. And remember, we said what was the quotient and the remainder given a dividend of 9, 2, 4, 1, and that's my divisor of 5. And what we did is we said, how many times does 5 go into 9? Once. What we did over here in our brain was 1 times 5, and then we subtracted, and we got 4. And then we dropped this 2 down. And then we said, how many times does 5 go into 42? Well, that was 8, but over here we said, in our brain, what's 8 times 5? And that's 40. And then we did the subtraction, and then we dropped this 4 down. And how many times does 5 go into 24? It only goes in 4 times, and so we said, what's 4 times 5? 4 times 5 is 20. I'm left with 4. Drop down the 1. That goes in 8. One more time, I said 8 times 5 is 40. So I've got a remainder of 1. True? So that was my solution. Okay, we're going to use that same process as we go on and do long division with polynomials, but I picked a bunch of different types of problems. Okay, this one, find the quotient and remainder using long division, and this is our dividend, this is our divisor. So what we're going to do is we're going to write x plus 1 and we're going to divide that into, I'm going to write this in standard form. So 2x squared plus 7x minus 5. It has no missing terms, so I'm good. So what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at x and 2x squared. And I'm saying, what's 2x squared divided by x? Well, that's 2x. So that's the number I put up here. And now remember when I showed you earlier that what happens inside my head? I'm actually distributing 2x times x plus 1. That multiplication gives me 2x squared plus 2x. Now, in division, it's repeated subtraction. So these signs change to a minus and a minus. And that goes to 0. And this gives me 5x, and I subtract 5. So now I go ahead and I look at just the x and just the 5x. And I say, what's 5x divided by x? Well, I don't know why that's happening. I'm going to have to fix that. So what's 5x divided by x? Well, that simply cancels to the number 5. So that's the number that I'm going to write up here. It's a plus 5. And down here I'm going to distribute the 5 into the x plus 1, and I get 5x plus 5. But when I come through and do the subtraction, it changes my signs, and that goes to 0, and this goes to negative 10. Now, I can't divide x into negative 10, so this is my remainder. So I have a remainder of negative 10. So that's the first problem. Let's go on to the second. All right, this one, find the quotient and remainder using long division. This is a little longer. First I want to make sure, do I have an x cubed, an x squared, an x, and a constant? And I do. So now that I have that, I'm going to take my 4x minus 1, and I'm going to divide that into x cubed plus 18x squared plus 7x minus 3. I'm going to scoot this out of the way so I can actually do my work. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 4x and say, what is 8x cubed divided by 4x? Well, that's a 2x squared, so that's the number I write here. And then I'm going to take 2x squared, and I'm going to multiply it by 4x minus 1. And I'm going to record that over here. So when I distribute, I get 8x cubed, and then I get minus 2x squared. Now I'm going to come through and change my signs because I'm subtracting. So that guy becomes a negative, that guy becomes a positive. Those add to 0. This goes to 20x squared, and I'm going to drop down my 7x. So now what I'm looking at is 4x into 20x squared. What is 20x squared divided by 4x? Well, that's 5x. So I'm going to write my 5x on top, and then I'm going to take my 5x and I'm going to multiply it by the same 4x minus 1. When I distribute that through, I get 20x squared minus 5x. So we have to change our signs. Positive becomes negative, negative becomes positive. That goes to 0. I now get 12x minus 3. So my last piece, I'm going to take 4x and see what do 12x divided by 4x. Well, that's the number 3. So that's what I'm going to write up top, is that 3. I'm going to take 3 times 4x minus 1. And I end up with 12x minus 3. And when I change my signs, I get 0. So my remainder is 0. So this is my quotient, and there's my remainder. All right, let's try another problem. Look what I'm dividing at now. I need to find the quotient and remainder, but I'm actually dividing a polynomial in 4 terms, and I'm dividing it by a trinomial. This is kind of big. Let's see what happens, okay? So on the outside, I'm taking x squared minus 5x minus 7, and that is going into 2x cubed minus 13x squared plus x plus 21. Okay, so what I need to think about now is I need to think about x squared and 2x cubed. What is 2x cubed divided by x squared? Well, the number 2 stays there, but 3 minus 2 is 1, so I have 2x. So that's what I write up top. Now, this distribution is going to be pretty big. I'm going to make sure that I write this out. And this is x squared minus 5x minus 7. So when I multiply, I get 2x cubed. And then I get a negative 10x squared. And then I get a minus 14x. When I do the subtraction, I change my signs. Positive becomes negative, negative becomes positive, negative becomes positive. Those go to 0. A negative 13 and a positive 10 is a negative 3x squared, and a 14 and an x combine to a 15x. I can drop down the 21, and now what I'm looking at is x squared and minus 3x squared. And that simplifies to negative 3. So I'm going to put a negative 3 up top. When I put my minus 3 over here, I'm going to distribute that to x squared minus 5x minus 7. And I end up with a minus 3x squared, positive 15x, and a positive 21. Now, this is my chance to subtract. That means change my signs. He becomes a minus. He becomes a minus. That goes to 0. That goes to 0. That goes to 0. So my remainder is 0. My quotient is 2x minus 3. My remainder is 0. What I've really shown here is x squared minus 5x minus 7 is indeed a factor of that polynomial. All right, let's see what's on deck. Our next problem. Find the quotient and remainder using long division. I want you to notice in this problem that we are missing an x squared and an x term that we should be cautious of. So since we're missing that, I'm going to make sure that I write that in. So I'm going to take my divisor of 3x squared minus 1, and that's going to go into, I'm going to change this to 12x to the 4th minus 6x cubed. My next term should be an x squared, so I'm going to call that a 0x squared. I should have a 0x and a plus 1. Okay, so I look at 12x to the 4th and 3x squared. And my side work shows 12x to the 4th divided by 3x squared. 12 divided by 3 is the number 4. X4 divided by x squared is x squared. So up here is 4x squared. So I'm going to take 4x squared, and I need to multiply that to 3x squared minus 1. And I end up getting 12x to the 4th. I don't get an x cubed term. That's okay. But I'm going to write this underneath my x squared term. I should get a minus 4x squared. Don't worry. Now I'm going to come through and change my signs. He becomes negative. He becomes positive. That guy goes to 0. So I should drop down my minus 6x cubed term, and I should drop down my x squared term. All right, I'm going to take negative 6x cubed, and I need to figure out how many times 3x squared goes in there. Well, negative 6 divided by 3 is a negative 2. X cubed over x squared is an x. So I'm going to write minus 2x. So I'm going to put minus 2x off to the side, and I'm going to multiply that by 3x squared minus 1. When I multiply, I get minus 6x cubed, and here I get a positive 2x. So I need to write that over here. Now I'm going to come through and change my signs. He becomes positive. He becomes negative. So that guy goes to 0. I end up with a 4x squared here minus 2x. Now I come over and I need to look at 4x squared and I need to look at 3x squared. Oh, this is going to be kind of yucky. What is 4x squared divided by 3x squared? It's the number 4/3. So how do we want to proceed with this? Do you want to use 4/3, which is 1.3 repeating? Let's go with that, okay? So these cancel, and I'm going to get a positive 4/3. That's kind of weird. This one's kind of yucky. All right, let's put 4/3 out. Let's take 3x squared minus 1. Let's distribute. So here's my side work on this. 4 over 3 times 3x squared over 1. The 3's cancel, and I get 4x squared. So that's my first term, 4x squared. Then when I multiply 4/3 times a minus 1, I get a minus 4/3. And I'm going to write him out there. Ooh, I've got this plus 1. I should have dropped him down, don't forget. Now I'm going to come through and change my signs. Minus, he becomes a plus. He goes to 0. I've got a minus 2x and a 1 plus 4/3. That's really just going to be 2 1/3. So let's write that as plus 2 1/3. So now I look and I say, well, what is a minus 2x divided by a 3x squared? Well, that can't happen. That doesn't work. That would be like me trying to divide 7 by 10. That won't work either. So this is my remainder. Oh, sorry about that, guys. That's my remainder. So I end up with a remainder of negative 2x plus 2 1/3. That's my remainder. Why I picked this problem was to illustrate this multiplication, and I need to be careful with the 0x squared and the 0x and dropping down the terms that are in between. That's why I picked this problem. I think that is it. This should tackle any type of long division that you have. All right, thanks for watching.